Thank you very much. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here today because I think this is kind of a historic event in some respects. I am not sure, I've worked in Detroit at Cranes for 25 years, and I'm not sure I have ever been at an event where every leading Chamber of Commerce representing either African Americans, people of color, ethnic chambers have been at one place at one time on one panel. So I think whoever planned today's event, this was terrific to get this kind of a turnout. The other reason that I'm excited to be here is, now many of you are lifelong Detroiters or grew up in this metro area, but like I said, I've only lived in the city of Detroit for 25 years, and I've never been so excited and so optimistic about the future as I am now. And I think there's a lot of different reasons for that, and I think that the opportunity that we heard this morning about financing and access to capital, what you're going to hear from this panel today about what the chambers offer, small and mid-sized businesses, startups on up, I think is really important because there is a window of opportunity now in our metro area, particularly Detroit, that if we do not take advantage of, shame on us. And I brought with me today free copies of the supplement that we published on Monday, The Big Bet on Detroit. And you will find information in here about who's doing what in Detroit, from neighborhoods. It's not just downtown and midtown, although that's what you read about. There's a lot of activity in neighborhoods, and this supplement talks about some of the people who are doing the things and who's behind them financially. So I urge you to take a look when you go out to the table out in front. Now, starting on my far right, we have Gerald Moore from the Michigan District. He's the Michigan District Director for the U.S. Small Business Administration. Camilo Soro, Executive Director of the Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Von Nguyen, Executive Director of the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce. Ken Harris, President and CEO of the Michigan Black Chamber of Commerce. Louis Green, President and CEO of the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council. And Errol Service, Chairman and CEO of the African Caribbean Chamber of Commerce. And we're going to include you in the conversation too, Maud. So let's start by asking, now first of all, we are going to go a little past 1:30 because we got a little late start, and we want to make sure that people, if you have a question for one of the panelists, you're able to ask the question. There's cards on your table, and you can hold them up, and somebody will collect them. But from the presentation that we just saw, there are disparities in lending, and I'd like to start with the SBA in terms of, the SBA helps support and back the loans that the banks are making in Southeast Michigan. So where do you see that disparity coming from? What do you think are the major causes of the disparities that we saw in the data?
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
A couple of things. So over the last 2.5 years, I've had the pleasure of traveling the entire state of Michigan and visiting each of Michigan's 83 counties. When we hit urban and rural communities as it relates to access to capital, we heard two very distinct things. If you were in urban communities, you felt that you could not gain access to capital because of who you were, right? Minorities, folks of color. If you were in the rural stretches of the state, you felt you couldn't access capital because of where you lived. Now, I am here to tell you that while pervasive, and I know that perception seems like it's reality, that good deals get done, right? Period, end of story. So when we heard these concerns, we then addressed them by putting together a program that specifically addresses these issues. We found that there were issues around education, around training, and information that our small businesses just simply don't understand and don't know. And because they don't trust the process or were fearful of the process, they never engage. So a lot of the data that you see that Maud presented, in many cases, as she said, there are people who are fearful of the market, so they never engage. So we've put together a program called Getting to Yes, and this program specifically focuses on 4 key areas. We educate you by making certain that you understand debt financing and what debt financing is all about, the 5 C's of credit. We then connect you with one of our consultants. In the case of the Detroit market, it's our SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and Richard King's team. And they work with you to further develop your business plan and your executive summary. But most importantly, they work with you to help prepare your package the way a lender needs to see it.
That's right.
The last thing you should do as a small business owner is walk into a bank and ask for a loan if you've never accessed debt financing. You don't understand what they need, and you don't necessarily understand the rules of the game. So we help you put your document together and your loan package the way a lender needs to see it. We then put you in front of a mock lending committee of commercial lending experts, and you get to pitch your deal. And finally, at the very end, we connect you with lenders of your choosing. All right? So we'll present you with 20 lenders, and it's up to you to choose which alternative, which conventional, which micro lenders you want to meet with. I'll close quickly here. I want to really thank Lewis and I want to thank Ken Harris because we piloted this program this spring. We piloted the program. We had 10 businesses as part of the pilot. All right? And just about all of them came from Lewis's team and Ken's team. 7 of the 10 made it all the way through the process. Okay? Meaning that they went through the 4 steps. You can't go to step 2 without going to step 1. You can't go to step 3 without going to step 2. It's a very structured process. Of the 7 that went through the process and met with lenders, 4 got deals. 4 of them. Okay? The other 3 are in various stages of underwriting. Point is this. We can help prepare you to meet with the lender and get these deals done. So the pitch is we've got another session starting in the Detroit market in January. If you are in need of capital, touch base with us at the U.S. Small Business Administration. Touch base with any of your ethnic chambers. They are aware good deals get done. It's a matter of visibility and exposure, and that's what we can help you do. Thanks.
How about some of the other chambers? Any similar programs or what are you seeing among your own members when it comes to access to capital? Is it a question of really that they're just being denied, or are they ready for prime time? Anybody?
Well, you know, go, ladies first.
Since assuming this role at APAC a year ago, I have gotten out there and gotten to know our constituents in Southeast Michigan, and honestly, it's the same thing. I don't know where to go. I don't know what the rules are. I got denied once, so I'm giving up. It's the 3 E's for APAC. It's education. If you don't get educated, you're not going to be empowered. And that's the second thing. Once you're educated and you know the rules, you're going to feel more confident. You're going to go out there with your solid business plan to pitch to these lending institutions, and then you can execute. So many times we see constituents go in and say, well, I want to just go open up a restaurant without doing the research behind it and knowing what kind of funding institutions are out there, not only from a Michigan standpoint, but from a minority standpoint, from a national standpoint. So I think it's the 3 E's. If we can collectively teach our people this, that's probably how we're going to get a better start.
Okay, other comments? Did you?
With regard to the Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, our membership base is mostly the mid-sized business. So if you can understand, they require large capital in order to get larger for more business. And I have got calls from members that they want to get into a new bidding opportunity, but then the bank is not working with them for that. And so the reason why they call me is because they don't know who else to call. Yeah. So I think going back to Gerard and to your point, it's about education. There's programs out there, but when it comes to the chamber and what you're talking about disparity and how can we fix that, I think it's more about the education, but also for us, for the chamber, events like this, I learned a lot today that I can go back and communicate to our members. But I think that's going to help us to close that gap that we see out there. And kudos to Louis and to Ken and to you also what you started. That I heard some of the success stories. Yeah, no. So I guess my answer is, the answer to your question is being in the works now with what these 2 leaders just begun. So.
Other comments? Errol, did you have?
Well, I'll just say, from my background with McDonald's Corporation, I work on the corporate side of McDonald's, and I was a consultant to the franchise owners. And what we saw with some of the franchise owners, they're afraid to share information, let you know where they are. And so a few months go by, and this franchise owner is in trouble. And then we try to save them. So one of the reasons why we started the African Caribbean Chamber of Commerce during the 2006 crisis, we noticed that a lot of people in our community was complaining about, I will not make it, I'm not going to survive. And so if you really understand being in business, I've been in business for 20 years, it's about preparation. Most of the people that comes to my chamber, when they first show up, they're not prepared. And from being in corporate America, I'm very surprised that we had so many people on the front line who are not surprised. That's one phase. We're just not prepared. We also are not educated on how to access the financial industry. And no one is really taking the time to teach the mass or the most needed people in our communities. So for the past 3 years, we've been training in my restaurant's financial workshop. And it's amazing I thought we would just get the medium people. We have people that retired from GM that didn't know what to do with their money. They had it sitting in the bank. And so as you go through this process, part of it is preparation. And I strongly feel that the banks should have an educational system set up that everyone know about, because the education that we're teaching at our chamber comes from the banks. The banks are partnering with us, and we're making our people become more vibrant. And so I have a member, Marcus, if you could stand up for a minute, please. Marcus is one of our members. We took Marcus from phase 1. He's now an MBE certification. He's now one of the people who are certified in 14 states to supply paints to the highway.
That's
Yeah?
great.
And he's looking for partners, and he's looking for finances. He's looking for more money. And so in this financial industry that we're in, it's about being ready, and it's about mentorship. Utilizing someone like me who knows the system and said, how can you help me?
Ken, did you want to jump in?
I mean, to represent African Americans in some of a similar displaced format there's fear in the African American community as well as it relates to financial institutions. So we all know, post-slavery, African Americans have been trying to get into this economic mainstream and be in part of this life, liberty, and justice, the pursuit of the American dream. We've made some strides politically, we've made strides educationally, socially, but we have not turned the corner as far as economic empowerment is concerned. And so, post-slavery, there were all types of systematic barriers. The Freedmen's Bureau was started, was defunded, shut down. There were Jim Crow laws, there were black codes, there's some similar form of the American apartheid system where, the number one goal of this Americanized society was to block African Americans from the economic fabric of society. And there's a lot of historical, systematic, generational scenarios in place in which a lot of these burdens still and trust factors still exist today. This is empirical evidence that supports that. And so we have to have an honest discussion. I was in a meeting with the president of Bank of America, Matt Elliott, and Tiffany, and also Alexis is here with Bank of America as well. And they did a survey study that showed African Americans would much rather go to their barber, a homeless person, or someone in the grocery store to get their financial information, as opposed to going to a traditional lender or bank. So when you think about that entire scenario, we have a lot of work to do, not only socioeconomically, but also in terms of race, especially, I'm sure the color community, et cetera, experience the same thing. But as African Americans, which represent, especially in the city of Detroit, 32,000 black businesses, ranked number 4 in the country, the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in the entire country. Most importantly, if you think about Black Enterprise Magazine's top 100, 26 of those firms exist here in the city of Detroit, and this is the largest concentration of black folk in density outside of the continent of Africa. But if you look at the economic situation, no money has gotten to the neighborhoods and to the community. So that's a problem, and we must find solutions, and that starts today with us coming together.
Okay, let's shift gears just for a moment. I think that the session after this is going to focus on opportunities for training and other resources in the marketplace. So a lot of the things that we've been talking about, getting ready for prime time and being prepared, as some of the panelists have said, some of the people who are offering those programs will be represented in the next panel. I want to explore a couple of opportunities because of this alignment of all these chambers and who you represent and the opportunity of working together on some things. Let me ask a couple of questions. One of the things that Maud pointed out for those birth stage companies, yes, they need capital. They also need customers.
That's right.
I bet that if the chambers represented here today did procurement among yourselves, who can buy from one another? You already know who's in your own chamber.
Absolutely.
How about some of the other chambers? Is there any, if you follow that Pure Michigan Business Connect program, I don't know how many of you might have signed up for that, but you can do that informally too. That Pure Michigan Business Connect is a wonderful opportunity because really big institutional employers in Michigan have said, we commit to finding more suppliers within the state of Michigan. We commit certain dollar target levels. So DTE and Consumers Power and some of the other large companies have made these commitments, and MEDC through Pure Michigan Business Connect is trying to play matchmaker with some of these larger companies. The auto companies are involved in this, and some of the tier 1 suppliers. Is there an opportunity for the chambers, or are you already involved in trying to get your members into the pipeline for that kind of, who would
Can I
like
jump
to take
on that? I want to
Yes.
jump on. I'm
Yes,
excited
please.
about that
Jump
one.
on that one.
Because that's something that I'm absolutely proud of, not only what MHCC is doing, but you have throughout the year, you have the MMMPC, you have all those with the OEMs, the matchmaker. But we created one, because there's so many going on, you have yours too, that it was such a success where we invited, we listened to the needs of the corporations, who are the customer. What do you need? I need somebody that can produce something. And we put together a matchmaker with certified minority business, and then we called the core buyers. And everybody was pleased. And we generated over 300 leads. So that was a powerful and impactful. We have people from across the nation here they became our members, and I go, what are you doing here from New York or California? I said, the POs are written here in Detroit. So we have to come here, and thank you, Chamber, for putting this event together. And then Pure Michigan, you mentioned that. They have done a magnificent job,
they have.
and I think I have a VIP because they always put me in the best city. Sorry, but it's amazing the opportunity that we have been able to create with that. And MMMPC, none of you know what it is, you have to get on board because that is where the deals are made.
That's
so,
right.
go ahead.
Okay. Anybody else? Who else would like to chime in on that?
This is why we exist. Ken, myself, and Camilo, we are here to represent you guys when you can't be everywhere at once. We have pure matchmaking events probably 2-3 times a week, whether it be in Lansing, Metro Detroit, you name it, West Michigan. So please utilize us. We are here to help you. We are here to serve you.
That's right.
That's why we have exhibit tables to talk about who we are, what we represent, what our missions are. And I mean, we're strong silos, all three of us, all of us here on this panel, but we're stronger together when we come together. So as much as we function silently, I don't know if that's a word, but we're very segmented. But this is the first time, as Ken mentioned, where we all sat together and we're going to be the big one minority voice.
That's right.
So I'm curious how
And I would
many-
just like to say, Mary, too, Stephanie Fries, are you here? Stephanie was just here for MEDC.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
So how many people have participated in the matchmaking process in one of these? Did you know that it existed? No. Okay.
There you go.
You got to start reading Cranes. I know, shameless plug. I can't
Shameless
help
plug.
it. I can't help it. Errol.
To also let you know that we do have an ethnic chamber for the state. So all 9 members of the ethnic community, we are a chamber for the state. And we work directly with the governor in some cases. And so that's available for you to participate in.
Another question about support for early stage companies. Maud, I think I saw in your report, which I actually read page by page, including all the charts, one of the things that seemed to be an issue was not just financial capital, but human capital. And that there was some mentions in the report of the opportunity. A lot of the smaller companies, a lot of the smaller businesses are retail and consumer, and that they don't always score well on customer service. It seems to me that that's another chamber opportunity where some of the smaller people who don't have the money to help train their own staffs, is that something that the chambers could work together? Is that a need for the smaller companies, these early stage, particularly the ones that have consumer retail focus?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mary, if you use the term of George Bush, shock and awe.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard George Bush invoked at a panel like this before, but
in my bipartisan way, because I have to, travel both lanes. The reason why I mention that is we are the boots on the ground in perspective. And so our goal is to get folk from A to Z with the least amount of gray hair. And we do this every day. Entrepreneurial training, access to capital, advocacy, when it comes in terms of procurement and contracting opportunities, B2B, C2B, A, B, C, D, E, F. We're on the front lines. And so, again, we're here to serve. And most importantly, being associated with an organization under, this gentleman next to me is very humble, but Lewis Green represents the largest minority supplier development council in the entire country. Billions of dollars in procurement to minority folk. His organization actually put the first roundtable together to have all the minority chambers come together. But right now where we are is connecting the dots effectively. Just like we don't know a lot about some of the new folks in the audience today, there's a lot they don't know about us as well. And so we're here as a chamber to make sure that that is not the case. And the reason why we connected the dots with the finance and banking industry is so that they could see the value here at the table. And it's all about value. It's all about measurement. It's all about quantifiable opportunities that exist. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel with the folks at the table. I just had a call, Mary, from 3 consultants that came from Boston, New York, and Florida. And they're like, oh, we're being paid by these, foundation groups to come into the city of Detroit. And Ken, I need your database. And I'm just like, really? I've never got a phone call from such and such. I've never been engaged. So why is the finance and philanthropic community going around the people who are the boots on the ground, the folk who get the work done? And no, in most cases, like MMSDC, it's against the law to give away your database and financial information of major tier 1 to tier 4 suppliers. So our goal is to eliminate the middle person, and let's get the resources to the people who are the boots on the ground.
I actually have a few questions here from the audience, and Maud, this question is for you. Someone wants to access your presentation in the statistics. Is that available? How might someone access that online or?
Yes, as you can see, I have the web page address of the Detroit project, and all our research and different resources are available there.
Okay, thank you. Gerald, this question's for you. You mentioned the Getting to Yes program, a lot of interest in that program. How do you apply?
Well, what I'd like you to do is start with contacting us at our office, and you can reach us at, give everybody a chance to write here, area code 313-226-6666. 6075. That's the first thing. I assume, and I hate assuming, but I assume that everyone is either from Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, or a county that borders one of those counties. We're going to run this out of Detroit, but this is a statewide program, so if you happen to be from Flint or Muskegon or Benton Harbor, we'll be taking the program to those communities as well. But nonetheless, start with us at that number that I just gave, and the next program begins in January. All right, now, just some very basic things very quickly. You got a cash flow. No one is lending money to a business that doesn't make money, right? So you have to have some basic things. You have to cash flow, right? We look for businesses that have been around for at least a couple of years, 2 years of operational performance. If you happen to have less than 2 years of operational performance, it won't exclude you necessarily, but remember, you can't turn a debt financer to an equity investor, and when you're asking a lender to lend to you and you have no past performance, then you're basically going on Shark Tank and saying, give me money off my potential. And that's not what lenders are in the business of doing, right? They're in the business of mitigating risk. Yeah. So you have to have some past performance, you have to cash flow, some very basic things, okay? But reach out to us, give us a call. Each of the chambers, I will be doing another push to each of them because this is really about put up or shut up. I get people who come to me all the time and say, we can't get access to capital. And when I reached out to Lewis and I reached out to Ken, they put up. They put their money where their mouth was. They sent the businesses over to us, and we got the businesses capital. Plain and simple. This isn't rocket science. It isn't. Don't make it harder than what it is. Don't go to a lender by yourself. Come see us. We can educate you. We can train you. We can package the deal the way a lender needs to see it. We can put you in front of multiple lenders, and we do it in a very accelerated fashion. 39 business days.
Wow.
39 business days. All right? The wait is over. Get engaged, get involved, contact us, and we will help you gain access to that capital.
Errol, there's a question for you. It's a couple of different questions, but they're all tied to the Caribbean basin. What do you see as the greatest areas of opportunity for import-export in the Caribbean? And what are some of the biggest barriers to increased trade?
In the increase of trade is education. Most people don't understand how to do trades with Africa or the Caribbean. And so part of what our chamber do is to educate the community on how to do business with that community. We have the Consul General for Barbados here this week, and they have 3,000 people that they would like to get into the U.S. Barbados, if you get to know Barbados, is one of the most educated communities in the Caribbean. And they would like to get those people here to go to work partnership in business. And so they just opened up the opportunity yesterday for us to connect Detroit to Barbados.
That's powerful.
To get human capital. Wow. And so with the immigration for the state of Michigan opening up, we have an opportunity to bring you as some of the most qualified people from the Caribbean or from Africa to the state of Michigan to do whatever you would like them to do. So that's I would say that's one of the number one opportunities, the immigration community. So EB5, something like that.
Okay.
And Mary, I would also like to add, we just hosted out of Valerie Jarrett's office, the new Undersecretary for the U.S. Department of Commerce and Trade, here, Stephen Seleg, and I had all of my partners here at the table as well. And the statistics are incredible. I mean, Detroit is one of the top exporters in the entire country outside of Mexico. Every continent is looking to connect with us. The focus of the Obama administration is import, trade, and export. Gerald's office works closely with the Import-Export Center. And I can tell you there's a tremendous focus, especially African Americans who are looking to do business in Africa. The top 6 markets, fastest growing markets for import, export, and trade is in Africa. The number 1 market is in Mexico. So just to let you all know, trade opportunities are available, and by working with SBA, the Caribbean Chambers, et cetera, there is an easy process and also financial assistance to help you get from, again, A to Z with the least amount of gray hair and stress.
If I could just,
Yes, sure.
Just 2 points.
Yep.
If you want to work with Africa and the Caribbean,
Yep.
number 1, education.
Yep.
If you have anything to deal with education,
SBA.
it's an opportunity. Anything to deal in the health sector. For the Barbadian group yesterday, they are ready for some healthcare equipments. So if you have that opportunity, make it happen.
Okay.
Those are top two.
Louis, I'd like to just get your perspective because you've been a little quiet, but also you have so much experience leading, as Ken said, the largest minority development council in the country, and it's largely because of where we are with the auto companies, but that your council has led the way in so many ways. But given the topic today of what chambers can provide and some of the discussion that we've had already, what are there some observations or things that you'd like to leave this group with in terms of what business needs to do to be successful?
Yeah, sure, Mary, thank you. I would say a couple things in a quick 15 seconds. For those of you who don't know about the council, our primary organization is to connect corporations and minority businesses to opportunities. We did about $26 billion of contracts with minority businesses and corporations last year, and we arranged for about $583 million in financing last year.
Yep.
And some of the lessons learned from that, I think, and I shared one thing with Mary, and I'll share with you, is that I think banks and a lot of other folks are missing opportunities here by not really understanding the value of this marketplace. I mean, and it's great, we can't scale up enough of the programs that Gerald would have, and there aren't enough Richard Kings and Alexis's in order to do some things. But I mean, just in this past 30 days, we've been able to arrange financing through some private funders of close to $22 million for minority businesses here in town who couldn't get an answer from the bank. In fact, quite honestly, they had their lines of credit cut from the bank because they were growing. Somebody received a large, over $50 million contract. The bank said, great. They cut their line of credit in half. They said, you're a bigger risk now. And they're trying to manage risk. Had somebody else that got a $200 million contract. They cut. So there is access to capital, though, if you have a good deal. Come see us. I mean, we get people loans very quickly. And I think that, it is about packaging yourself. If you have things right, the capital's there. So, we saw a dissection of all the ills of the body, but the capital is there, and there are banks, there are Hispanic and African American and Asian banks and others that are ready to fill this marketplace and invest in Detroit and believe in the value of what's here. You have to be able to cut through the fog, and people who don't see that value, there are people outside of Detroit who see more value in Detroit than the people in Detroit.
That's true.
Right? And so, some of that is, some of the people you need to connect with, unfortunately, aren't around our little mitten. They're outside, and so let us connect with that. But as we get that, hopefully everyone can see the value here and start to invest appropriately.
Okay. Now, to wrap up, I'm going to ask each panelist there might be one thing that you wish that you had gotten across today that you haven't had a chance to because the question didn't come up. And Gerald, you're on the end, so you get to start. Just very
Fantastic.
quickly, we'll just go down the panel.
Absolutely. Well, again, thanks to the Federal Reserve and, of course, to the chambers, and I think this was a great forum. Specifically, I think if there's one thing we want to get across, it really is, you've heard me say it for 4 years now, good deals get done, right? If they cash flow, if you can service the debt, you meet debt coverage ratios, this is basic stuff. Good deals get done. Come see us. It has nothing to do with where you live, what color you are. I will put you in front of African-American lending institutions, Hispanic lending. Has nothing to do with any of that. Bottom line is it a good deal? If it's a good deal, we will find a lender who's willing to deal to it.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to publicly say thank you, Ken Harris, for taking the lead on this event. This is amazing. And the one thing that I want to tell all of you is B2B. We need to stop thinking that Ford, GM, and Chrysler, just to mention, the top ones, are the only customers out there. Just very briefly here, one of our largest members, MBE, gave a $750,000 contract to another MBE member.
That's right.
B2B, there's a lot more money, I would say, than for GM and Chrysler, and we need to do that. I know it's a little outside of the lending. I think this gentleman has spoken very clearly about that. But let's sell and let's concentrate on the apple that we actually can reach easier than the one that we have to climb a ladder to get. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thanks. From our initial conversation last November to try to get this group together, it has come to fruition. So thank you for everybody for joining us today. If I could leave you with one thing, as a business entrepreneur out there, and for those who have friends that are entrepreneurs, when one door closes, another one will open. Please utilize all the people here on the panel. The two things that were mentioned was capital and customers, networking. You got to have both to survive, right? So if you need capital, you got these lovely folks up here. And those that aren't even mentioned that APAC works with. We got MEDC, newdetroit.org. I know Rich is here somewhere. He's going to be on the panel after us. We have Michigan Seed, Michigan Center for Empowerment and Economic Development. There's smaller organizations that can definitely help you get the capital you need. And then you have the chambers such as ourselves to get you the consumers and more networking that you need to. So those two go hand in hand. So when one door closes, don't give up. Talk to one of us. We'll get you to where you need to be.
Okay, Ken?
Absolutely. Everyone, can you give Dr. Toussaint, PhD, a round of applause with Federal Reserve Bank? I mean, it's critical in my closing arguments that, I don't have to make an emotional argument or a subjective plea. You heard the data. The data supports where we need to go next. And most importantly, my plea is to the financial community, the lending community, the philanthropic community, the consultants here. It's time for us all to come together and work together and find a way to close these disparity gaps together. And I think that we can do it as a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. I truly believe that. And your network is totally your net worth. And that is one of my foundational principles. So let us work together, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side. And make sure you join these chambers as well. Future members, thank you so much.
Louis?
Both sides of the coin are true, right? You heard in the doctor's study, it was in the MBDA study from 2010, minority firms are less likely to get loans. They get turned down more often. They get them at higher interest rates, and they don't even feel good about asking the process. I didn't know they would want to ask a barber, dog, mortician. I didn't know it got that bad. But at the same time, being kind of honest with you, if you have a startup, you're unlikely to get a lot of money out there. I mean, 8 out of 10 startups fail. Would you get on the plane if I told you it was going to crash 8 out of 10 times? Right? Just being honest. Right? Startups is a much harder thing to do. But if you're in business, there's opportunity. There's some talented people in this room. There are talented people in Detroit who always aren't at the table. With the group here, I think great things are going to happen. I also want to thank Ken for putting this together. And again, if you need some money now, I don't want to sound like those kind of payday loan places, but sometimes your business needs that. Come see us. We can help you for that. And look forward to some good news from all of us on some things we really think we're going to collectively be able to do to help Detroit in the financial situation soon.
Errol?
I'll just leave you with this thought. I'm not from Michigan originally, but I'm the largest franchisee in the state of Michigan for McDonald's.
That's right.
Okay? And the difference is, someone said this earlier, when you're not from here, you see something else. Yeah. When you're from Detroit, you hear a lot of things and you see a lot of things. Coming from where I'm from, Detroit is beautiful. Right. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And so the mindset, change your mindset and connect yourself with the right people.
That's right.
Because sometimes you're connecting yourself with the wrong people. I'm very picky with my friends. I don't have a lot of friends. I don't. So be picky with your friends. Pick these guys up here. Okay? Pick them. All right? And I tell you, I've been doing this chamber for 9 years, volunteer, on my own, with a team of people who helped me to find this chamber. And all of them believe in me. They believe in me because of what we have done for them. So in everything that you do, you should see some result. And we measure our result every year as a chamber, and this group does the same. I was just with the SBA group on Friday. I was so impressed. It was my first presentation in front of that body, and I was just so impressed. So you have the tools here. You have the expert. utilize them.
Maud, any last thoughts?
Well, I really want to thank you. I mean, even from the very beginning when we studied the Detroit project, I mean, the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, as you know, has a branch in Detroit. But this is the organization that conduct monetary policy. And it sounds really high. And as an economist, when you start thinking about how do you connect the mission of the Federal Reserve and the people on the ground, but it's in fact very simple. The Federal Reserve is in the business of ensuring stability of the economy. And as I mentioned, small business is an important part of ensuring stability of the economy. They create employment, and we are in the business of ensuring full employment. So there is a straight, direct connection between the mission of the Federal Reserve and applied economists like myself who needs to bring the information, the data there in order to help inform the policies to ensure the stability. So we are very grateful that you have put your input into the data, because the national data is not timely. We need intelligence, timely and on-time intelligence, and we are very grateful for this collaboration. And I'm just very pleased that we are continuing this conversation with the chambers and getting your experiences and putting that on paper so that we proceed to do better and greater things. Thank you so much.
So the moral of the story is make sure you fill out surveys when you get them from the chamber, because they're very important. Please join me in thanking the panel. Great conversation.